On Thriving in Our 40s today, I am talking to the brilliantly imaginative, spooky children's author, Alex Atkinson. Al, I'm so excited about having you on Thriving in Our 40s today. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are here to talk about your children's books that you have published, and also to open up the conversation a little bit more to talk about how women and men in our midlife can pursue dreams and passions and turn them into a reality. So let's start with your books. I was thinking that I would do a synopsis, but I don't think I would do your books justice. So could you give us a synopsis about what your children's stories are about?
Yeah, so the Spooksmiths is about twins. They're 12 years old and they're called Indigo and Rusty. And they basically discover that they can communicate with ghosts. And they go on lots of different adventures. So in the first book, the baddie is called Cinder Man. And he's taken over their hometown and he's sort of zombified all of the inhabitants apart from Indigo and Rusty. And then in the second book, they're having to take on yet another evil ghost. This one is called Hail Mary, and she has this evil circus full of like phantom clowns. And yeah, they're quite fun, magical, ghostly, spooky.
They are really fun, but also they are really quite scary. And I think I sent a message to you because I admit I've read the first book with my children, and we're building up to the second book. So obviously we've got it here waiting, but I don't know whether your children are the same, but when I read to them to prolong going to bed, they'll be like, "Oh, mummy, can you read into the next chapter? Can you read into the next chapter?" Genuinely, with your books, I'm like, we need to read into the next chapter because I'm too scared to leave it where it's just ended. And so we would carry on a few pages. They are absolutely brilliant. Like you say, they're fun, they're spooky, they're really imaginative. What what inspired you to write children's books? Have you always wanted to be an author? And if so, why did you go down that genre?
I think they were the stories that I grew up with. So my dad was he was a really brilliant storyteller, and he would absolutely terrify us. And my mum gets so cross because she'd
You
send him
wouldn't
up
get to sleep.
a nice, relaxing bedtime story. We'd end up screaming. He'd have turned all the lights off, and we'd
Oh
be
my
running
God.
around playing Murder in the Dark.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
that is they're the things that I really remember from my childhood, and it
Yeah.
was so much fun. And yeah, basically, I'm just trying to ruin bedtimes everywhere. Uh,
Yeah, exactly. Terrifying parents and
yeah,
children.
yeah, that's
Um,
my goal.
but I think there has to be a balance, doesn't it, of where, obviously children need to read for school and for comprehension, but fundamentally reading has to be fun. And I was researching some stats recently about reading amongst young people, and daily reading and just the enjoyment of reading is definitely on the decline amongst our children. So, hearing now what you just said about your father, and also I was listening to an interview with Reese Witherspoon about reading. She has her book club, and she says she has vivid memories of when her grandmother used to read to her and used to do voices for all the different characters. Do you think we have to incorporate that kind of otherworldly, silly element when we are reading to our children to make it more engaging?
Yeah, I think ultimately kids have to read for fun, and it really doesn't matter what they're reading. Eh, I think an adult's job is to sort of try to introduce them to books that they will like. So there's no point
Mm.
giving them something really worthy that would be academically very pleasing. What you want to do is to introduce them to a whole range of books until they find something they like. So there's
Yeah.
some amazing graphic novels out there. Um, there's this whole world of books that I feel is waiting to be explored. And I think what happens in the bookshops is that they can only pick a very small number of books to promote. And
Right.
so it's not always the best books. It's sometimes just the biggest names that get the spots on the shelves.
Yeah.
And yet there's this whole world out there. And I think that's probably the adult's job, is to sort of point out, well,
Yes.
you say you don't like reading, but maybe you like this, or maybe you like that. So my son got into reading football books. The
Mine too.
James
Obsessed.
Watson, he really enjoyed. That's a whole series. Yeah, I think it's just about finding something that they're interested in, and then the love of reading will come with that.
Think that's brilliant advice because you can be so directed about what the school recommends, or like you say, when you go into the bookshop and you see these titles and you see these authors, and it really is trying to sift through all that and stripping back, what do they like? What do they enjoy doing? And then, like you say, building on that, my son, exactly the same, obsessed with football, my daughter, obsessed with horses. And if I was probably going to compare, which I hate the word when you mention children, but if I was going to compare what my children's reading to maybe what her peer group are reading, it's not the same level. She's definitely reading because she's enjoying the topic, not because it's going to necessarily enhance her language. But I hope just through the enjoyment of picking up a book or even just a pony magazine, that will lead to her picking up a book later on and being like, do you know what, I'm going to give this a go.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think the focus should be on reading for pleasure. Um,
Brilliant.
I, they will just accidentally learn as they go along if they're enjoying it. But I
Yeah.
think sort of force feeding worthy books is kind of a way to put kids off books for life.
And even adults, this is the
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
we can pick up a brick of a book and be like, oh god, I hear it's amazing, and then you open the page and it's got tiny print and you're like, this is going to be hard work, and you delay going to bed because you're like, I just don't want to put myself under that pressure. um I have a few friends that have wanted to write stories, so I'm wanting to talk to you because how have you gone from someone who has wanted to write a book to becoming a published author? What has that journey looked like? And did you always set out that you wanted to publish a book, or was it more of a hobby to begin with?
I think obviously the dream was always to publish a book, but when I set out, it was just seeing if I could write something, beginning to end. It's hard to get started, and but obviously unless you do, you can't get better.
That was
But
going to be my exact question. The hardest bit must be sitting down and being, right, I'm going to do this, and then persevering with that as well.
yeah, so I think it's key to get a really good concept first. So I think when I first started writing, I think there must be about 10 years ago now, I used to just sort of sit down and like, oh, let the muse flow. And it was rubbish because it had no direction, didn't really know where it was going. Um, and I think the key is to start with like a really clear idea. So now I spend a lot of time in the sort of idea development stage.
And is that, how does that look visually? Is that just you scribbling down notes, or is that you coming up with mood boards? How does that come to
Um,
fruition?
so I will actually spend quite a lot of time on the internet. And so for these books, I knew I wanted them to be spooky. And so I really got into researching the location. And so I'd be looking up all these sort of spooky deserted houses and asylums. And I probably wasted far too much time on that. So, I didn't really use a lot of it. But it sort of got me into the mood and the look and the feel. So I waste quite a lot of time doing that. And also, if I need to get an idea of what a character looks like,
Yeah.
I might do a bit of Googling as well, just because unfortunately I can't draw. So I often find it useful to just, sort of scout about until I see someone and I'm like, oh, maybe that's what this character looks like, or I'll take their hair. And,
And,
you
and,
know,
and kind of you take different bits from different
yeah,
areas and you bring it all together. Um,
yeah.
I think research is definitely the key, isn't it? In terms of, like you just said about the location, you start off maybe with that primary idea, and then you build and build and build. And like you say, you've been doing this for about 10 years. And I imagine, well, you can tell me, what were the days like when you would scribble away, think you had an amazing concept, only to maybe go back to it the next day or a week later and be, do you know what, that's rubbish?
Yeah.
Or did you, or did you have
Yeah.
that? Or maybe I
Oh, no, it was brilliant. No, and most of the time. Um,
really.
the really key thing was to take some courses. So for children's writing, there is a community called Write Mentor.
Okay.
And so I joined them, and I think that was probably the turning point for me, because at that point they were running lots of courses for middle grade writing. They also do, picture books and YA. I just took loads and loads of courses.
Brilliant. And
I did,
drawing from people.
yeah, and then I sort of built a bit of a community of other writers around me, because I think when you're writing, people that aren't writing, sort of your family and friends don't really get it, and they're like, oh, so what have you just spent 3 hours doing, or and they don't sort of get the boredom and the frustration, and it's just lovely to be able to engage with other people who are also trying to do the same thing, and they get it. They're like, yeah, I've just written 10,000
I think
words of rubbish.
I I think it's so important to say that, isn't it? Because if I just kind of try and look a bit more inwardly about what I'm doing with the podcast, when it's just you, yourself, and I in a room trying to create something or trying to come up with a concept idea, it can be really lonely and really isolating and quite unmotivating when you think you've got an idea and then you either share it with someone and you get their feedback and it's maybe not the feedback that you want, or you have that self-doubt where you're a bit like, what am I doing? Why am I trying to do something that thousands of other people are trying to do? So having that community around you of like-minded people, I think it's invaluable.
Yeah, definitely one of the biggest things that has helped.
What would you say then, or what's the biggest thing that you know now that maybe you wish you knew when you first started out? What's helped you get to where you are?
I think a mixture of everything. So I read a lot of craft books. So there's some brilliant books out there that will help you structure a story. So I particularly like Save the Cat, which is a
Save the cat,
screenwriting
okay.
book. But there's also one called Save the Cat Writes a Book. That's brilliant. There's a book by John York, who wrote Into the Woods. That's also hugely helpful. Um, Taking courses again,
Yes.
and meeting and speaking to and forming critique groups with other writers. So you write a chapter, you're like, I think this is quite good, but I'm not sure I've got the voice quite right, or there's something wrong with it and I can't put my finger on it, and you can send it off to some writer friends and people can come back with some feedback, which when you first start receiving feedback is can create some moods. But you get used to it. You get used to people basically criticizing what you've written, and you have
You
to get used to it.
I was going to say you have to get used to it, don't you? And as much as that is hard to swallow, and I think everyone listening to this can relate to that at some point in someone's career, or the way that they maybe have acted in a situation, or maybe how they're bringing up their children. Everyone has their own opinion, and some people are more vocal about it than others. But I think when it comes to a profession and you're trying to perfect a craft, then having critical feedback is absolutely necessary.
Yeah, 100%.
And are you critical to the other people within your community groups?
Yeah, yeah. So it's definitely give or take. I mean, critical. You always try
Or
and
constructive criticism, that's what I
yeah,
should
yeah.
say.
So
Sorry.
you're never, yeah. So it's never personal. And I think once you find a group of like-minded people and that you work well with, you can be slightly blunter, but you always have to be careful to sort of say the things that you like and you're enjoying and that is working well. And then it's basically suggestions, because it's their story at the end of the day, and you can suggest ideas that might improve it, but at the end of the day, they have to be happy with it and feel they've been true to themselves. So yeah,
Exactly. They take or leave it at the end of the day.
yes,
Can
yeah, yeah, very much.
can we open up the conversation to maybe be a bit broader and talk about at this stage of life that we're in, when many of us obviously have careers, family, older generations to be looking out for, younger generations, commitments. Yet, I think everyone has a dream or a passion that they would like to pursue. I think my question is twofold. How do you have the confidence to think I can do this? And then at the same time, how do you try and ignore that voice at the back of your head of being, no, no, just walk away, get back to the day job?
Yeah, I think that is a good question. Two questions. I try to ignore the voice, but there's some days when you do just feel rubbish and nothing you do is right. And I think at that point you just have to sort of walk away, try something different, have a walk, and then come back to it fresh the next day. I think everyone has that voice, and I think probably the world wouldn't be in the mess it is in if everyone had that voice, because I actually think we
Mhm.
should all doubt ourselves and we should all be questioning ourselves, because I think that's a really healthy place to be. Um, you
What
know,
what keeps you coming back to writing then? If you're having those days when you're questioning what you're doing, what makes you come back the next day and sit down and start writing again?
because I love it. So I
Great.
genuinely get enjoyment from the days it's going well, or the days. My favourite bit is coming the idea generation. So coming up with the ideas. And if I get sort of the right character for a story and I've got the voice right, it makes me so happy. And I'm I make myself laugh. If I'm making myself laugh with my writing, or I'm scaring myself, then I think I'm in the right place.
That is fabulous. I love the idea of making yourself laugh or making yourself scared. I think that is that is such a barometer to measure the writing. Do you ever think that you pushed it too far though sometimes? If you're scaring yourself as an adult, do you think that maybe if I'm doing a children's book, I need to scale it back?
Yeah, I did actually scale them back quite a lot.
Did you?
Yes, yes,
Oh, I
yes.
love it.
I did. So this is the PG version, obviously, because I'm writing for 8 to 12-year-olds, so I want them to enjoy it, and I want them, you know, to know that it's all going to be okay. And
Exactly.
I love
I want to
writing.
know that it's okay. That's
Yeah.
important.
So, but I think that's why I write for the age group that I do, because for middle grade, that 8 to 12-year-old age group, there's that you always do a happy ending. Like it's always going to end up okay. And I love that.
It's like a feel-good film, Al, isn't it? You just want to you want
Yeah,
to finish the film knowing that the world is a happy place, and the same when you put the book down that there's going to be nothing underneath your bed that it's going to bite your toes off in the middle of the night. Which, you know, little people, that's their imagination running wild.
yeah.
I interrupted because we were talking obviously about the self-confidence as well, and so do you think that your confidence has grown over the years now that you've got two books out there? Do you think that as a writer you have more belief in yourself?
Ooh, I think as I've got older, I've got more confidence purely because I care less what people think. So what I mean by that is I don't mind making a bit of an idiot of myself. So I'm happier to give things a go, I think, and for things to fail. And I don't feel that that's such a big deal now. I'd rather try and fail than not try at all. But that's taken me
Absolutely.
until my 40s, I think. Um, I've
And you
forgotten the
think
rest
that's
of
an age, you think that's
it.
you think that's an age thing as well?
Yeah,
It's not necessarily to do with the career, it's actually you become more self-confident in I'm going to do it, I'm going to push myself, and I don't really care what anyone else is going to say about this.
yeah. And I think to succeed at anything, I think you have to have a bit of that. Not to
Mm.
say that you're not going to take on feedback, and that if something isn't working, or you're going to get days when um, your confidence takes a knock, but I think sort of deep down you have to have that to be able to keep going.
So if we were to just finish up this chat, Al, what would be your message then? Would it be persevere, carry on, for people, you and I, in a situation where we've got this dream, what would be your message to them?
Yeah, so it would definitely be to persevere and to carry on, but to keep learning. So I think the learning element is really important. Take classes, take courses. If that's not working, try another way. So it's that, or it's always being willing to keep learning and to keep an open mind and to sort of feed that curiosity. Um, yeah, I'd say that's.
And
It
keep,
is,
yeah, keep motivated, which can be quite
I,
hard to do. But I think, like you just said, through the learning, that motivation will come through that way into that avenue. Um,
yeah,
we are going to finish up, but I just wanted to know what are your plans next? You alluded to obviously scaring yourself when you write the children's books. Does that mean
yeah.
that you might leave the children's books and think about writing more adult horror books?
I don't think I'll write adult horror because it genuinely scares me. It's too much for me. But I love a thriller, so I
I
can't.
love a thriller as well. I'm all over a thriller.
So maybe a thriller, but I'll definitely keep on doing middle grade, and I really want to lean more into funny middle grade as well as being a bit creepy as well. So I
Brilliant.
think more of that.
Well, I can't wait to see what you're going to do next because, like I said, I absolutely loved the first book and can't wait to start the second book. And maybe when your next book comes out, you can come on and talk all about that one as well.
Love to. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining me, Al, today. Take care.
Thank you.